Trying to lose that bit. Welcome along to the Cardiff City phone in. We got three Steves on the panel tonight. We tried for more, but it was difficult to recruitment process. We managed to get three, so it's not bad. So Steve Wiggins is with us, Steve Thomas, and me, of course, Steve Johnson, and Simon is going to be joining us quite soon. Simon Willis from Ace Podcast Nation. So the first thing to say is, while we get into the chat, I'll kick it off in a fairly positive way, and in fact, I'll come to you, Steve Thomas, first. Yeah. So I thought on the weekend, for the first hour or so, I thought we had a really good shape. I thought we had a lot of battle. We had key players missing. We got resolute. We kind of organised, and then obviously Darland lost. Moore lost his marker effectively. Darland turned around and belted a great goal back to the net, and a couple of minutes later hit another shot which kind of semi-scuffed really. I think Jack Alnwick was maybe a little bit unsighted, and I hit the back of the net, and that was it, game over. But they weren't sort of peppering our goal with shots, Steve, and I didn't think we were massively sort of thrashed as such. And in some ways, maybe we were unlucky, but I thought we showed quite a lot of fight. How did you see it?
I'd agree with that, Steve. The first half was very even. We were talking before we went on air about the fact the only highlight they showed from us in the first half was a shot from Siopis that we think bounced 3 or 4 times before it actually got to the goalkeeper. But we did contain the team that's top of the league and have won 7 of the last 8 games. But as you say, we had a couple of chances at the start of the second half. There was a shot that Mate had that the goalkeeper dived low to his left and turned around the post for a corner. And there was a shot by El Ghazi, but when he hit it, I thought it had a chance of going in, but it just sort of swerved wide. So, we did take it to them a little bit. And I'd say you mentioned the squad. Again, at Stoke, Willock had the best game he's had for us, without a shadow. He looked like the player that we thought we were getting back in the summer. And again, on Saturday, against Sheffield United, he looked like the player who was going to create things. A couple of minutes in the second half, he goes down and he's out, and we still don't know, unless I've not seen any news about him today, how long he's going to be out for. But again, it seems as though players start performing and then they get injured. I'd like to throw out a word for Rina Motta as well. He's come in and done a good job. And you say we had a good shape. And this is one of the better teams in the Championship we were playing on Saturday. And there were some encouraging signs. However, as you correctly say, there's mixed opinions on Kiefer, obviously, but to have a striker like that, Darla may not have been close enough to him on the first goal. However, the way he took it down and volleyed it into the top corner was absolute class at Championship level. And when you got a striker like that, it's the difference between teams like us and teams like Sheffield United, because they've got players who can put that spark in and can turn a game there. So that's a little bit of quality that we're missing.
Yeah, and Wiggy, of course, he scored the goal and then he ran to the away fans and celebrated in style and all the rest of it. Some people think you shouldn't do that against your former club, but it was a great finish. I mean, he pretty well batted it top corner. It was just a great finish. I think you've probably seen. I know you've seen the highlights and the actual incident. Like Darlin was sort of in a way kind of out muscled really. Turn around, but what a great finish! You're going to celebrate that as a professional footballer, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this thing about just because you've played for someone that you shouldn't celebrate it, and I've read quite a few things since the weekend. A lot of people knock Kiefer Moore, but I mean, I think anyone in any profession, if you've got a chance to better yourself, you're going to move on. And he's obviously on more money. Well, he moved to Ipswich, didn't he, last year? But he had a good time at Ipswich. Okay, they let him go, but he's he's a decent striker. What is he, Steve T? Is he about 4 million's worth? I don't know how much. Yeah. Well, and that's what it buys you. Now we're looking for a couple of loans in the January transfer window as opposed to spending any money. Well, and of course the breaking news, Steve, is that last half an hour we've appointed Richard Shaw as assistant coach.
Yeah, but not as a player.
Not as a player. Well, he was half decent at Coventry. I remember.
He was. Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
Coventry.
Dreadlocks.
Yeah.
But again, it's
what you know about him as a coach and as a manager. Obviously, he did some work with Millwall. I think there's a connection between him and Rizza going back. Any thoughts at all on that as an appointment?
My jury's out, certainly. I mean, as Steve Wiggy says, we know him from Coventry. We know he was a quality defender there, but we also all know that just because you're a good player doesn't make you a good coach. So I don't know anything about his background as a coach. Obviously, I wish him well. I hope he'll take Cardiff City forward. But at the moment, I don't know anything about him.
Is he in? Is he in to be the next Cardiff City manager?
Wow.
Is the merry-go-round going to continue? That's just throwing that one in the pan.
Well, that's an interesting comment because, I mean, he's been at the club less than half an hour. And Steve Wiggins already said he could be the new boss. But I'm just looking at the stuff now, the information about him. This is from the club site. Pleased to confirm former Coventry and Millwall defender Richard Shaw has joined Omar Rizza's background staff as assistant coach. London born, obviously, Rizza's a Londoner, Turkish Londoner. Began his playing career with Crystal Palace, working his way through the academy to feature in the 1990 FA Cup final against Man United, and best known for his spell in the Premier League with Coventry, made 150 top-flight appearances, and then ended his playing career with Millwall, went on to become the Lions' caretaker boss in 2007 with coaching roles at the Den and later back in Coventry. So he's kind of been around the block, but he's not really dissimilar in some ways, except he's been with larger clubs. Not particularly fantastically heavily experienced either, Wiggy, I would say, really.
No, I wouldn't say so, Steve. Little known on the. I mean, all we basically know him for is his playing days, really, don't we? There's no real track record there as either a coach or in any management capacity. But he's obviously been coaching, so I think our coaching staff was a bit. We were understaffed in the coaching department, so they were obviously looking for someone, and obviously, like you said earlier, the Rizza connection. So that's why I'd imagine he's in. Perhaps he's good friends or whatever. You know, that's the way it looks.
So Steve, not to pigeonhole you, but you tend to be quite a positive person, Steve Thomas. Yeah. You tend to be quite a positive person. So the positivity I'd get out of this, going back to what Wiggy just said then, really is that if they do know each other of old, they have some connection. You know, he did say he was going to bring someone in. He's brought this guy in for a reason. A new face in the building, a new voice on the coaching staff is hopefully going to be a good thing, Steve. Kind of, and also they have that existing understanding of each other.
Yeah, I hope so as well. Also, obviously, I wish Richard Shaw well, and I wish and anybody who can take Cardiff City forward and get some more positive results is going to be okay with me. But I think we've got a massive few weeks coming up now with the transfer window as well. I said before we went on air as well, I'm a little bit concerned. I saw a very encouraging headline on Wales Online which said we had Rizza said he'd got 2 new strikers in January, and I thought great. And you say never let a story get in the way of a good headline. When you read further down, and it's the 2 new strikers are Kian Atete and Isaac Davis. I hope they come back and they make a difference. However, they're not new strikers; they're already players that we've got. So I'm fearing a little bit for it, because we have got out of jail a little bit with our dealings in January transfer windows before. Notably, the year we got in the likes of Jordan Hugill, Tommy Doyle, Cody Drama, and now Alfie Doughty came in. All quality players. If we could get players like that in, then I'm sure that we could push on. But I'm very concerned, again, as I said before you came on, about exactly where we're trying to get at the moment. I was on this time last year. The 3 Steves were on last year again. Steve was dressed as Santa at the time, talking about where we were going on Errol Bullet Sleigh. Here we are a year on, and I think we're probably not in as good a position as we were this time last year. But I don't think you can put that down to Omar Rizza, because he's only got the players he's got to work with. And as we've already said, there were players who put in a very good shift on Saturday. However, we are down to the absolute bare bones in our squad. We've got to get some new players in. It's talking about moving players like Jamilu Collins out and to get players in. But I think to say we've got an absolutely crucial 4 weeks coming up in January to hopefully get in some players who can make a difference and move us away from the trapdoor, because it would be an absolute disaster to go down to League One, in my opinion.
Yeah. So Saya, any thoughts on Richard Shaw coming in? You know, it's new to all of us. Steve's already put a tip out there for him to be the next City manager, but you know that's the kind of show it is. What's your thoughts on Richard Shaw?
I don't know a great deal about his coaching abilities. I mean, I know he know he's close to Omar Risa. I know he's worked with him at Watford in their 21s. As a footballer, I actually was quite a big fan of him. Like, I thought he was, looking back on it, I think he was a bit ahead of his time, like tactically and technically. In some ways, he'd have been more suited to the way football's played today. But look, at the end of the day, there's two sides to it, I guess. One is they had to get coaches in. Like, we were in a real skeleton crew for a first team coaching squad, of a championship side. It was ridiculous, the lack of coaching staff that we had. It'll remain to be seen whether he makes a difference or not. My one concern is, the one thing I think we lack is a bit of not a disciplinarian, but I get the impression from things I've heard and what I see that Omar Risa is quite friendly with all the playing squad. And I wonder if they need someone who they're not scared of, but, who's got like that bit of a fear factor and can kind of get him in line. And if he's bringing in someone who he's already close to or friendly with, will that necessarily, that sort of, I don't know, it's not going to change. Like, it's just going to be more of the same. Yeah. But I don't know, like, you got to give him a chance, and hopefully he can help, I suppose.
So the point you're making is a really interesting one. So Steve Wiggy and I, we both worked in professional radio, and we know things happen behind the scenes, sort of thing. And sometimes, Steve, in my experience in radio, they'd bring in someone from outside, someone that no one knew, if they wanted to make some changes in kind of more of a kind of emotionless capacity. And, do you think Sam might be onto something there?
Could be, yeah. That's notorious, isn't it? That someone new comes in and they start making changes to put their stamp on things, So it's a very good point. But the thing that Si mentioned there was the friendliness. Is we need. It sounds like we need someone in the camp that can give the players a bit of a rant, a bit of a Warnock type character on the side. I mean, I wasn't there Saturday due to work, but from the games I've seen previously, the previous 4 or 5 games, Riz is very, very quiet on the side, isn't he? He's not. I mean, not saying that that's not good or bad, but I like to see a Malky type character on the side. I like to see someone that G's the team up a little bit. I don't know what you guys think, but that's not in his personality, obviously.
No, but however, there have been, Steve, Thomas, particularly, I just put that on the screen, and it's going to come up at some point during the show. Steve, there have been, particularly away from home, I think, actually, as you said earlier, in those last couple of away games, we could easily have won one, if not both, maybe should have won of at least one of them. So there have been some signs there, and I think the change in formation, and we kind of look more solid and more difficult to beat. But it seems like every time we take a step forward in that way, we pick up another injury, and and here we go again.
Yeah. As I said, at Stoke, I thought Willock had his best game.
Had a really good game.
The entire time he's been here. When we saw the team announced at Stoke, we were all thinking, oh no, we'll take 0-0 now. But actually, we played really, really well, particularly down the left with Willock, who's now got injured, and O'Dowda, who's also missing on Saturday. So as you say, it is one step forward and 2 steps back, because we were unlucky, I think, to have not won rather at Stoke. It felt like a defeat. It always feels like a defeat when you let in the late equaliser. It feels like a win when you score the late equaliser. But on that Saturday again, the second goal in particular, we gave away a stupid free kick 5 minutes into injury time at the end of the game. I thought we had the line set up too far back. We were only setting it up 8 yards from goal, when perhaps if they'd set it up on the edge of the box, then Jack Hannock wouldn't have been tempted to come and try to punch the ball and not make it, and the Stoke player headed it in. So we were close on that. At Coventry, we were unlucky as well. I genuinely couldn't see Coventry scoring, and I was dead nervous as usual. But I couldn't see Coventry scoring until they got given that penalty, which sometimes they get given, sometimes they don't. But again, I'm not going to blame the officials on it, but on those 2 away games, there were some positives, and yet the 2 home games, we said there were lots of positives in the Sheffield United game, but we've got to go back to that Preston game as well, which was absolutely It was absolutely. I was just dead lucky to be sitting at home with the easy travel arrangements from my kitchen to my lounge. But I feel for the people who were there that night. I think the home form. I thought it may have been better on Saturday because we weren't playing a team who were going to get 2 banks of 4 set up behind us. We were playing a team who were coming to attack us. So in a way, we could play on the counter. We need to be able to mix it up a little bit more. But it's very, very difficult when you've got the amount of injuries that we've got in the squad is down to such a bare bones kind of level.
Yeah, and Richard Shaw, as a defender, obviously we got Darren Pearce there at the moment. I wonder if he's brought in a more defensive-minded coach, because I've been looking earlier. I think it's maybe the last 5 games. I think we've conceded 2 in every one. I think that's right, something like that. So we seem to be shipping the goals, and the same on the weekend, really, because let's face it, we don't look menacing or dangerous really up front, particularly at the moment. And so as soon as we go down, as soon as you get that goal behind, it's kind of here we go again. If we don't score enough goals, you're always going to be in trouble, aren't you? Really?
Yeah, of course. And I think the one thing we lack most of all, I think, is we lack real width, especially with Tanner and O'Dowd out. We lack so much width that we've never got that sort of that winger going in behind and putting crosses in or stretching the play, which makes everything congested for the sort of 2 which are playing off the striker. I thought Kean Ashford had a nice little cameo on the weekend.
Yeah.
And he's someone who I think, he didn't do a lot because he wasn't on for long, but he beat his man and he tried to be a bit direct. And I always look back to the Southampton game last year as a kind of barometer almost. When Errol Bullock finally brought the youngsters in and he put Giles in and Conte, the other players, your Gousasses and your Rawls and people like that, they all responded to the extra energy around them. And I kind of think at the moment, especially with 3 centre-backs and the amount of injuries we've got, I'd quite like to see us try and utilise this system, because I really like the system. I think it's very versatile defensively and offensively. But to get the best out of it going forward, you need the wing-backs to be able to get up and back. So I'd quite like to see these very highly rated young fullbacks that we have in the first team. Now, we've got very little options. I understand playing Joel Bagan and Rena Moto there on Saturday versus top of the league is going to be a difficult game. So they played more as a 5. Oxford are in wretched form, but they've also sacked their manager and brought in Gary Rowett. So they're going to have a bit of verve and a bit more optimism. So I tend to think the best way to get at them and try and win that game is maybe attack is the best form of defence for us. So get the young fullbacks in, get Kean Ashford and Ruben behind the striker, and actually try and start fast, move the ball quickly, and create chances. Because if we could get an early goal for a change, it would also get the fans up. And I think Oxford may get a bit nervy then. If we let Oxford settle like we let everyone else settle in the first 15 minutes, it could be a long afternoon because, like you say, we don't score or create a great deal.
So a couple of things out of that, Wiggy. Obviously, the first goal at Oxford, we don't have a great Boxing Day record, if I remember, actually. But by the by, yeah. But if we were to get the first goal at Oxford, and they're kind of on the slide, yeah. So that's the one thing. So that would be great to see us go from the front. And I suppose in Ritz's defence, even against Sheffield United, top of the league, we still kept 3 up front. So we still, had a go in a way, which was good. The other thing from what Si just said is, I think Capaccio looked really good when he came on. And if you're going to play, if you're going to give youth a chance and go with a bit of an attacking sort of wing back, surely he's the lad to do it, isn't he?
I think it makes sense, like Si said, with the amount of injuries. And with the injuries, don't you all find the amount of it? I know lots of teams have got injuries, but we seem to have a phenomenal amount of injuries. Is there a lack of a physio down there or treatment? Or I have no idea.
Steve, just to respond quickly to what you're saying, and I'll come back to you now. Jeff Dela Cruz sent through a very interesting comment on the weekend. I know he's weekend. I know he's listening now. For more of a kind of technical reason why that might be the case. So Jeff, if you're listening, maybe you can pop that in. Talking about surfaces. Yeah, we are. I mean, we look at the moment, Steve. O'Dowda, who he missed like crazy, I think. So NG hasn't had his best season. He's probably been carrying the knock for ages, quite likely, I think. Joe Rawls comes in, comes out. When will we see Ramsey again? Turnbull's out long term with a nasty injury. Atete and Davis are two new strikers, as Steve said. They're on the way back. Willock, he's going to be out probably for a month or so. We're missing Tanner. Reindorf is out as well at the moment. It's a lot of injuries.
I thought it was interesting on Saturday that Chris Wilder said in his post-match comments that the pitch wasn't the best.
That's the one.
Is that something to do with it? Are we getting these injuries because of the surface we're playing on?
Well, what Jeff more or less said is that apparently it's a hybrid surface, and part artificial, part grass, and we grow it a little bit longer. So with the Willock injury in particular, it literally just seemed to catch his studs, didn't he?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's. Yeah.
But to go back to your original question, Steve, what we talked about earlier before we came on, I think the first goal in lots of these championship games are really key. And whoever gets that first goal, we know notoriously, especially if we're at home, if the opposition get that first goal, we're done for really because we're not scoring. And then we throw a bit of caution to the wind, push a few players on, and then the teams just pick us off. It's quite an easy. Quite an easy thing for the opposing manager to set up if they get the first goal. And don't forget, at Oxford, our next game, we've got a few ex-City boys who will want to pull the trigger on us. Well,
Well, Kiefer Moore showed that the way home there, didn't he, on the weekend? He did say though, Steve Thomas. He did say, I think he was interviewed a little bit after the game that he loved it at Cardiff. Apparently, he loved it at City, and he was disappointed in the way it worked out at the end. In a couple of months' time, he might be there up front for Wales, and we will all be cheering his name again, won't we? It's
funny you say about cheering for Wales. I was at the game against Iceland, and I was very, very pleased to see Cullen score 2 goals. But I do have a bit of a problem cheering at Jack scoring. But we'll leave that to one side for a minute. I think go back to the players. If you look around the championship, the lower level, I mean, I think Derby had 4 ex-City players on Saturday. Portsmouth have got Marlon Pack and Josh Murphy. You've got loads of City players. And Oxford and another team who've got a number of our ex-players in there. But if you noticed, again, it's a bit like our managers. Our managers never move on to better clubs. I've said it when I've been on here before. Managers of the Jacks seem to move on higher up the league. Our managers, you got Morrison at Sutton, and then obviously Mark Harris went to Gillingham, then went back to Millwall. He's moved on from there. None of our players seem to go on anywhere better. When was the last time, leaving Kiefer to one side, when was the last time one of our players, not a player we had on loan, when's the last time one of our players actually went on to something better? So I didn't mean to stun you all into silence there.
I haven't got an immediate response to that one, to be honest. I need to do some research into that, I suppose. What about, Steve, sticking with you for now, the thing with bringing in Shaw, again, the Millwall connection, I don't know if there's anything in that. Mark Harris, Richard Shaw, London, Millwall, certain members of the board operate apparently in London. I don't know, just, throwing a little bit out there,
It's interesting. I thought we had Darren Purse to deal with our defence as a defender. So why are we bringing in Richard Shaw? Again, the interesting change in our formation to go with the 3 centre-backs and the 2 are overlapping wing-backs, not really working that well because we're still conceding all these goals, aren't we? It could be that they need some new blood. They need some new ideas in there. So let's see how it goes on that.
On that point, Steve, is there a case for bringing Fish in the team? Because we haven't really seen him, have we? Apart from the one game.
No. Good point.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be able to get a look in, does he? I don't know, Si. I haven't really seen enough of Fish yet. I think I saw him for about 15, 20 minutes. He looked pretty good, and he came from a big club. But maybe would you have Darland, Si, at fault sort of for both goals on the weekend?
Jeff, I think the first one he got distracted with trying to grapple, didn't he? He just got so focused on grappling with Kiefer Moore that he didn't end up watching the ball and doing his job. So I would put him at fault for that one. The second one, I think there's a couple of them who didn't do their job. In fairness, I don't think it was solely down to him. I also thought the keeper could have done better. And then just kind of going on some of the other stuff, like I think this system can work. I really believe that. I just think that at a moment with players out, you've got to get some pace in there and some energy in there. And I think the likes of Reindorf and that will be beneficial to the way it works. With regards to Fish, incidentally, I think he's been really good in this system. And if I'm him, I am asking what I've done coming to Cardiff, because if you think of how bad we've been at points this season, and he still hasn't got a look in. Chambers has had a mare at different points. Gutas and Chambers had a bit of a mare the other week in midweek, and he still didn't get a look in. And then obviously Darland came in. I think incidentally Darland is more suited to the left-hand side of the central defence. I think
even though he is right-footed, weirdly.
Yeah. Injury, I think he was playing on the left-hand side of the centre backs. And if you remember last year, when Gutas first came in, Errol Bullock played them whichever way round, and then about 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 games into Gutas's run as a Cardiff player, he switched their sides, and Gutas looked like a different player then. So I do wonder whether Darland actually would be better on the other side, but it is what it is. But I do think Fish deserves an opportunity. He's good on the ball, and I think with Darland, he's got a lot of the skill set that you'd want when you're playing 3 at the back, like someone who can pass it and bring it in midfield.
I really like Darland. I think he's a really good footballer, but I honestly do. I think he's got a really good future. I wonder if he's, because he's a bit rusty, really, to say the least. He's also still getting used to British football. Whether more of a flair defender, Steve Wiggy, he's kind of on a bit of a hiding to nothing at the moment. While we're in the bottom 3 or thereabouts, he probably wants to be that ball playing centre half that we've wanted for years.
Yeah, cool. And like you said there, Steve, he's been out injured. So he's still really coming probably to get up to speed with fitness. He was out a few weeks, wasn't he, injured? So there's the dilemma. So, but it's really interesting how Fish hasn't really, he hasn't even come on as sub or anything, is he? So is he carrying a knock as well? And nothing's been said. No, he's always on the bench, but no sign of him coming on. So, but yeah, crucial game.
Interesting
coming up.
At least David Evans' comment here. I think the 2 games I think we performed best this season are against Plymouth and Portsmouth, when we actually started on the front foot and we actually went at teams at the start of the game. I think those are the only 2 games I can think of where we actually did that. On the subject of Fish with Gutas, as you said there, Wiggy, we don't know why Fish isn't getting a look in. But I remember being kind of shouted down earlier on in the season when I suggested, when NG was first out suspended, how should we allow for that? And I said I was kind of shouted down in suggesting that we should bring say Darland in centre back and push Chambers to the right, when the centre back pairing of Gutas and Chambers was working. And we got them on the right side. It was working. We were playing in a 4-4-2. If we start playing in a 3 at the back with the 2 wing backs, how do we allow for that? Darland doesn't seem to be working as the 3rd centre back in there. Yeah,
but I think I've always I bang on about the five at the back thing all the time. I really like it. My surprise with it was it's a bit of a weird one. The other week, I can't remember what game it was actually. It was one of the away games. It may have been Stoke. I can't remember. He brought in Collins out of the cold all of a sudden and started him. Yeah. And then I kind of get that, because I love Joel Bagan. I think he's a really good player. I like him. Yeah. But I think he's more of a defensive out-and-out left back, whereas I think Jimmy Collins, because of his kind of pedigree and has got more to offer as a wing back at his best. But the right appears to be that it's purely and simply that he's probably pretty well already gone.
Like, how can I phrase this? I wouldn't anticipate Jamali Collins playing for Cardiff anytime soon. About as blunt as I could put it. And also, I got to say, I don't think Joel Bagan deserves to be dropped unless it's for like a real attacking, like
O'Dowda.
if O'Dowda was fit, then that's fine. If they were going to say bring in one of the youngsters like Tom Davis or Louis Giles and say, look, we want someone who's going to really push forward and put some crosses in the box, so we're going to just drop you to the bench, I think that's fine. But I think if it's just going to be like for like, because I think Jamalu, in fairness to him, after that serious injury, was never quite able to rediscover the attacking prowess of his game. I don't know whether it was like he didn't feel comfortable going as far forward, because I know defensively, I thought after a few games he looked pretty decent defensively, but going forward, he's never been the same fullback as he was before that injury. And look, you know, a real serious injury which has ended many careers of footballers. So
terrible injury, yeah.
So I think like you gotta, I don't know. I wouldn't unless there was like more injuries, God forbid. I probably wouldn't anticipate him coming in.
No, so when he first came, we signed him from one of the German clubs, didn't we? I can't remember the club now. Steve might remember before me, Steve Thomas. We signed him from one of the German clubs. He had a bit of quite a good pedigree. He looked great. He looked great until he got that knock, Steve Thomas, didn't he?
Absolutely fantastic. And then I remember that one tackle he did against Norwich. Norwich player was through on goal, and he came in and took the ball. This absolutely superb challenge. West Brom away night game. Something happened. He went off. Fantastic. He's got back, but as Si intimated there, he's not the player that he was. Just to go back as well, going back to Stoke, I was very encouraged on our left where we had Willock and O'Dowda, and they were having I wouldn't say they were slaughtering them or murdering them. However, they were having some success going down Stoke, the right-hand side of Stoke's defence, our left-hand side. I thought finally we were creating chances. We were actually putting pressure on teams. So I understand Stoke had a lot of players out, but we were doing it. And then next game comes, no sign of O'Dowda, and Willock unfortunately is now injured, and we don't know whether it's 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or whatever he's out. It's such a shame when we've got, and even El Ghazi. I was very excited when we signed El Ghazi. Okay, he hadn't played for 9 months. However, he's a quality player. I remember when he played for Aston Villa, very, 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 very good player. Didn't play Mainz for very well documented reasons for several months after he had his contract cancelled there. I knew he'd take some time to get up to speed. Again, we're just starting to see the sort of player that we knew El Ghazi might be. So perhaps he's next. I don't want to attempt fate touching wood, it doesn't happen. But I hope he isn't the next player now goes out injured, because every time somebody starts to turn in decent performances, they suddenly seem to get injured.
Yeah, I don't know what the problem is with Reindorf either. I don't know how serious that is. And again, I think it's totally unfair for us to expect him to be the kind of the goal scoring sort of messiah to keep us in the division. But he does have something about him. And when you see Wiggy as a legendary striker in your own right, yeah, a nippy handful, I think it's as well that once described you as. No, but when you see something like Kanga coming on, and in the last couple of games I've seen him come on, I might be wrong, I don't think he's touched the ball either time he's come on the pitch.
Well, when he came on at Stoke, I was watching. I only watch it on the telly. But the first thing I noticed was that he had his socks pulled right up, and he was pulling his shorts down, so you literally couldn't see his legs. So that's how he sets himself up. That was the first thing I actually noticed. But on the subject of strikers, coming up the January window, and we all know notoriously that's one of the stiffest windows to find. I mean, Steve pulled out a couple of good names earlier, but notoriously it's a time where everyone's looking for that player who's going to score you 10 or 15 goals the rest of the season. And is there anyone out there that wants to come to the ship Cardiff City at the moment? The way it's rocked.
Some mixed results on that, haven't we? Obviously, Jordan Hugill did a job for us. Sorry, Cabot did a job for us. Yeju last season didn't. So it'll be interesting. I know we got the new strikers in Keon and Isaac coming back, but I would like to get somebody new in as well. With no disrespect to them, they are going to be. It's like they like new players when they come back for long-term injury, but we need some new blood in very badly.
So
don't forget the beast. I was going to say, don't forget the beast from Middlesbrough. What was his name, Steve?
Ikpeazu?
Ikpeazu,
yeah,
that's him. Yeah,
I liked it. He had a fantastic attitude. I liked him, but,
I did. Yeah.
Is it though?
Would you
say?
when he literally ran through a brick wall for us and nobody was going to get there, and he sort of tucked it in.
Well, at the end of the season, wasn't it? All players came over, and he had the biggest cheer of the lot. It was like a legendary cult figure without really barely scoring a goal. But Steve, would you? It strikes me as, and I suppose with the January window is notoriously difficult, isn't it? And we're notoriously tight, I think, as well. To get some pace, into that team,
Well,
we just don't scare people with pace, do we?
We know it's not impossible to get some decent players in. It's just a question of who they've got to be cute. They've got to be clever. They've got to look at Premier League teams and players who they want to get some championship level experience for. I say it's work with players like I mentioned Tommy Doyle, Cody Drammer, and Alfie Doughty before. We demonstrably got some quality players. We had Harry Wilson on loan for the season as well, didn't we? Goodness me! Looking back at the team we had then, we had Kiefer in the team. We had Harry Wilson. That season during COVID, where we all forget we actually got to the playoffs and we lost 2-0 at home to Fulham, and then we lost 2-1. We won 2-1 away at Fulham, so we didn't quite get there. And then Fulham got promoted. Then the squad kind of fell apart. We got obviously we also even got Robert Glatzel in. Now Robert Glatzel, he's gone back to Germany. He scores an absolute shed load for Hamburg in Bundesliga 2. But it seemed to me that we get these players in and we seem to take them backwards.
Yeah, he's still worth quite a few million quid actually. Si, just for you, Jeff Delacruz has come back now with this comment going back to the injuries. Leicester City have the same pitch as us. It's a 5% fibre hybrid. They also have a massive injury list, and players seem to be getting caught in it. Maytown, and luckily just turned his ankle. I'll be clutching at straws. Is there any validity in that? We have an incredible amount of injuries. I just wonder, are we getting that wrong as well? The pitch,
Yeah, I mean, I do think the pitch, you can see that it plays quite slow compared to other pitches, particularly not that we do a lot of passing in the wide areas, but when you see teams put it down into the channels, the ball does hold up a little bit compared to some of the other pitches. They're always quite slick. But it's interesting that what Jeff just brought up about the Leicester team having a lot of injuries, because it's something that we have to look into, because it's not just this season. Last season we had all sorts of injuries as well. And in my opinion, by the start of this season, we should have been, as a club, investigating why. So you obviously start with the medical department. Is that up to scratch? Is there anything we can improve there, et cetera, et cetera? You look at the recovery side of things. Is that up to scratch? You look at pre-season fitness, all the little elements to it. But of course, part of it is the surfaces they train on, the surfaces that they're playing on week in, week out. And then even as you could go small details, like have a look at where we've picked up injuries. And most of our injuries come in home games as opposed to away games. Yeah. These are the details that as a club you should be looking at when you pick up this amount of injuries. However, without harping back to a point that we've talked to death about, I would think that sort of investigation or that sort of detail-orientated thinking would only happen if you've got a head of football operations, a director of football, a technical director, and people at the football club every day whose sole job is to focus on the football side of things. We don't have that.
No.
So I'm still at a bit of a loss of who's going to be making the decisions about these 12, 13 players out of contract, because
absolutely. Yeah. And that's a really big point you're making there, Si, as well, because obviously a couple of weeks' time, when this thing called Christmas is gone, pretty well less than a couple of weeks' time, actually. It's January, it's 2025, and those players who are out of contract, they're able to, they kind of accept offers to move on for nothing.
And Steve, sorry to interrupt. They're the players who we're relying on to keep us up, by the way.
Yes, exactly.
Have one eye on a new contract elsewhere, which will be getting big money, or don't know what they're doing, don't know if their families are settled. So there's two sides of it. Like, one, will they want to get fight for the cause because they want to get their big contract from another club at the end of the year or in January as a pre-contract? And also, if they're unsettled off the pitch, that's not going to help either. And like I said, who's making the decision? Because you can't let an interim manager decide who to stay and go. because he might not be here himself.
Which takes it all back to, what the hell is Tan playing at? Surely he must realise that we're very close to the trapdoor now. So then there needs to be some sort of a plan put in place to get these players signed up, Si. If not, then potentially we could lose players. But it's, as Reece and Jonathan have alluded to in the comments there, it's the lack of investment. We've known for a few seasons now that we want a decent striker, and we haven't invested. Tan's not okay, he's putting money in to keep the club afloat, yes, but we're not investing. Look at teams like Bournemouth and Forest. Look what they're doing with just a little bit of an investment. They brought in good managers, and look where they are in the Premier League. And there are two clubs that were right down with us.
I was very disappointed when Forest went up because it was always 6 points. Obviously, my nearest team worked with a lot of Forest fans. We won 7 consecutive games in the league at the City Ground. I was very disappointed when we lost our 6 points a season when they went up. But as you say, Steve, look at them now. Look at how they've moved forward. And Bournemouth are the same. You look at the way they're competing. Amazing. Forest are looking like they might get in the Champions League at the moment, which is completely unheard of only 2 or 3 seasons ago. And frankly, it sickens me from where I live. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they've invested and gone the right way. To come back to your point, Steve Wiggy, as well. I said before we went on air, what exactly is the plan here? Yes, Vincent Tan's putting in the money to keep us going week by week. But here we are, a year on, we're having pretty well the same conversation we were having last year about having a manager who a lot of us thought the jury was out on him. The jury's out on Omar Rizza. We've got to back him. We're Cardiff City fans. We've got to back him to try and get him to take us forward. But what exactly is the plan here? Si talked about the players who are out of contract. What are they being told? What are they being told about the future? What's to attract them to stay at Cardiff City? Beyond the fact that there are we've got some good players, really, but we need to make sure that they're encouraged, and we're also encouraged by the players, encouraged by the future that we see in the plan to get quality players to come here and sign 2 and 3 year contracts who are going to take us forward.
This time last year, Steve, we were 10th in the Championship, even though I was still in the bullet out camp with 32 points. Look where we are now, the difference there. So we were 10th this time. Same conversation, but we were 10th in the Championship. This year, we're in the bottom 3.
And I started off tonight, Si, because I genuinely did think in the last couple of weeks after we couldn't get any worse after Preston, could we? Let's face it. So we changed the formation, we showed a bit of fight, and we showed a bit of resilience, and we looked organised and looked like we were up for the battle. Yeah, so we've got all of that, but we got no wins in 8. We've lost 7 times at home. We got the worst deficit goal difference at home in the league. 2 games time, it's 23 games gone. We're halfway there, right? So, you can't be sort of, you can't have rose-tinted spectacles about it, and you can't say we were unlucky, etc., etc. So people are talking about the Oxford game now as being a massive game. So I've got a couple of comments here. Firstly, from Andrew Whitcomb. If we lose against Oxford, is something seriously wrong on and off the pitch? Because if we look at them, that's a good example, actually. Forest was a great example for Steve, I think, because they hung on by the skin of their teeth. And then when they got their money for staying up, they've grown from there. And that's all we ever needed to do, right? But Oxford, similarly, are a really good example. Like Portsmouth, they both come up from the league below, are in a bit of a battle, and they're kind of there or thereabouts. Beginning of the season, I think we all would have said Oxford one of the favourites to go down. So here we are now, Steve. Christmas is coming, New Year's Eve in a week's time, 10 days time, right? What about Andrew's comment there? I mean, how significant is this Oxford match, do you think?
Sorry.
Mr. Willis. Mr. Willis.
Oh, sorry. It's massive. I think it's massive for Omar Rizza, by the way, as well, because Vincent Tan cannot afford for Cardiff City to be relegated. And it is my opinion that if we were to lose the next 2, maybe 3 games, he has to make a decision. And I'm not saying that I believe that should happen. I'm just telling you what I think will happen because, like you said, we haven't won 1 in 8. What we cannot afford to do is come out with a festive period and still not ever won a game because we don't score goals. So, yes, there's players out there you can get on loan. But will we and do we have the recruitment team to find those players? You know, that's the other question. And I guess it comes down to something I wanted to ask Wiggy just about what you were saying about like last year and this year. With Vincent Tan, right? His casino business, I was reading up on it the other day because I'm doing a video on the finances and stuff. With Vincent Tan, his casino business in the Far East is really flourishing, making a lot of money from it. When he got involved in that business, he headhunted the kind of very top people within the world to run those businesses for him. Yeah, in a football, which is about as specialized as you can get, you've got a group of businessmen and then a football manager with not really anything in between significantly. Why do you think he runs his business so differently, like from one to the other, when something which is, you really wouldn't think that football is so different that it would be needed that you need a specialist to run it day to day?
It's absolutely astonishing, side, to be honest, isn't it? We're all in business. We know the way business works, but to employ, I mean, the thing about it is, again, he's going down the same route. He's been down this route before by going for cheap, employing, no disrespect. We've had the Hudsons, we've had, Neil Harris to a certain degree, but then to do it all over again, realizing that we only just escaped before, it's baffling. And the other thing that really grates me is Darman and Chu, because, as you say, football is a specialist business. You need football people in the club. You need people there on a day-to-day basis. And I think we've said before, who the hell opens up Cardiff City every? Who's got the keys to open up? Because you don't see Dalman and Chu. So who's the one opening the gates, Steve? I have no idea. But
they leave it underneath the brick in the car park, Steve. They put it under a brick in the car park.
On a slight positivity alert, I obviously we all speak to fans of other teams, and I've been assured by fans of other teams, Sheffield United, Burnley, to name but two, that there are three worse teams in this division than us. All we got to do is make sure we get more points than these teams. And one of them, I think, is Oxford. I don't think the comment that just went through there, I don't think we're down if we lose to Oxford. I don't think it's that much of a make or break game. It's a massive game. But the way we played against Plymouth and Portsmouth, I hope we can take the game to Oxford as we did in those two games. Because those are the two games I thought we started off first 10 minutes. I thought we're going to win this. I've not thought about that in any other game. Yes, the Norwich game, we got a little bit out of jail, as we did last season against Ipswich and Southampton particularly. But, you need to ride our luck a little bit. We've not had much luck in our away games. A positivity alert, I don't think we're going to go down. I think Vincent Tan will do enough to keep us in this division. However, it comes back to the point I made earlier. What is the long-term plan? Is the long-term plan to keep sitting fourth to fifth from bottom? Is that satisfactory? Does he want to push us on? Does he want to sell us? I don't know. Does anybody know?
Start of the season, we were, the remit was that they wanted us in the playoffs, wasn't it? Was that right, Si? I'm sure that's.
They were hoping for sort of top 8 challenge for the playoffs. I think a lot of that was based on the fact that Kanga was going to replicate his goal scoring form from previous seasons. And I think, look, let's be honest, right? And I can say this without any sarcasm. At the start of the season, I was very positive. I was the most positive I'd been for a while. I felt we had a very good window, but that was on the assumption that Kanga was going to get us some goals. Now, I'm not blaming just Kanga because it's not just down to him. But what I'm saying is that was, of course, the assumption that the striker was going to score. I was fairly confident Alex Robertson was going to be good. I thought Will Fish would be playing, to be fair. Darland, came in a little bit later, but I thought that was a good signing. Robertson, they were all, I felt, decent signings, and we acted quite quickly in getting them all in. It's just Kanga hasn't worked out, and unfortunately, soon I think there's some other players who haven't been at it. Quite frankly, whether it's their form has been poor or their attitude has been poor. I think there's too many like that fall into either of those two categories.
So let me just ask you something else, and then I'll maybe go around on this. So we look at Sheffield United. So I think they came bottom of the Premiership last season. I think they had 16 points. I think they had a terrible season. I think I read they came bottom.
Mm.
They were really easily one of the, if not the side in. They come to us. Okay, we got a depleted squad, right? So we didn't exactly play, like put a brick wall across the goal line. But we played pretty solidly against it. But the expectation was that we were going to lose, and we did, right? So doesn't that then reinforce, absolutely, in fact, encapsulate the incredible financial chasm between Premiership clubs and clubs, that even Sheffield United, who were dire in the Premiership, come down here. So, it's a tough world, Si, isn't it? I mean, it's like a reality check,
Yeah, it's massive. The difference in finances is huge. And look, I just want to address this as well. I've seen a lot of comments in my videos over the last couple of days with people saying it'll do us good to go down and it'll be like the old days and we'll go and we'll, play some different teams and then we'll come back up and we'll be stronger. Financially, of course, it'll be horrifically bad for the club if we go down. But also, if you look in League One, Birmingham are spending a fortune because they've got new owners, but they also fill their ground every week. You've got Wrexham in there. Obviously, we all know about them. There's a lot of big clubs in the League One who are well run and spend money and fill their grounds. So from that point of view, there's a big gulf for us because we don't fill our ground. We don't spend money. And when we do, we spend it badly. And then you've got the gap from the Premier League is huge. Like you said, Sheffield United were fodder really last year in the Premier League.
Absolutely terrible. Yeah.
And them and Burnley are going to walk the Championship this year. Not that I think it's going to be 10, 15 point gap between them two and the rest, but I don't think there's going to be too much of a race for that top two in terms of who's going to get there.
Yeah.
Sorry, Steve. I was just going to say, Tan must realise, though, as you said, Si, as a successful businessman who makes lots of money in other areas, that if we do go down, then surely his expectation of 200 million or whatever it is pie in the sky. I mean, he must realise that we need to stay in the Championship should he want to sell the club. If we go down, it's going to be catastrophic from a financial aspect for Tan.
Oh,
so
yeah.
what you can do,
that's why I think he will sack Omar Risa within 3 games if we don't win the next 3. That's not me. Again, I want to reiterate. That's not me saying I want that to happen. I want Risa out or anything like that. It's completely opposite. But what I'm saying is he is under real pressure because I believe, and this is purely my opinion, I want to distance myself from anyone else, just my opinion, that they made a decision to appoint Omar Risa and they were going to give him coaches about a month before they did appoint him. They didn't then do it because they weren't convinced by him. Like as a group, the board, the owner, they weren't sure on whether to give him the job. And then the Fab letter came. There was a lot of pressure in the media, on social media, the press, fans. So they then appointed him till the end of the season. I don't think if that Fab letter hadn't come out, I don't think that he would have been appointed then, because I don't think that they really are convinced by him as a manager. And I think this is where we're going to have a problem if he can't get the players winning football matches in the next couple of weeks, because Tan's not going to risk relegation. So he will do whatever he's got to do, unfortunately. And I'm not saying that he'll make the right decisions either, mind, because.
So let me just. Because I'm appreciating times going on here. I want to bring in this quick comment maybe from Steve, actually. Wiggins and Thomas, Esquire, in that order. But this comment here, so Jonathan Davis says, we have a businessman, a car salesman, and a bank broker in charge of the club. We have no idea about football finance, let alone football itself. So the question for a really quick response, because we're in the last few minutes of the show. Firstly, Steve Wiggins, and I'll go to Cyber for this as well. So when do we get to the stage where the person who's financing all of this says, well, the executives who I've put in charge of this football club are failing, therefore they have to go, and we have to start at that level in the move forward? Just how bad just how badly would a club need to be run in order for that to get to that stage? Because we sack managers left, right, and centre, but you could argue, it seems, some could say, Cardiff City is not the best run football club in the universe.
I think we've been at that stage for a while, to be honest, Steve. And I think all of us as fans just expect to see football people in a football club, not like Jonathan's saying there, car salesman and a bank broker. We're overdue a change, someone who's going to inject a little bit of enthusiasm, time, effort, and knowledge more than ever. Knowledge, football knowledge is what we need in that club to bring the right appointments, the right people in, the right signings. I mean, whoever sanctioned Kanga, come on, who was that?
Kanga on Saturday. There was one where the ball got played forward, and he's got a defender on him who's far smaller, both in height and stature, and somehow he managed to move Kanga out of position. And as you said, Steve, not sure he actually touched the ball on Saturday.
That was the Rubens cross, wasn't it? When he almost headed the floor rather than the ball.
Yeah, he seemed to be manoeuvred out of the way by this far smaller defender. And again, if he goes back, I wish him all the best, obviously. But as you said, Si, it was all the whole season was on the basis that Kanga was going to come in and he was going to be the answer to our goal scoring problems. He's not been that. But to come on to the point you made earlier on, Steve, as well, the huge difference between the Premier League and the Championship is shown by Sheffield United and Burnley, who were very poor last season, particularly Absolutely. Sheffield United doing so well this season. But also, if you look at it, leaving us to one side, you've got two of the teams that got promoted last season, Oxford and Portsmouth, are also down the bottom because there is also a huge chasm between the Championship and League One. And I'm really concerned if we go. Yeah, it's not like back in the day. 1975 we got relegated. 76 we came back up. 82 we went down. 83 we came back. We went down in 85. It took us till 2003 to get back. I can see that happening again. We cannot go down. I disagree with Ian. I come at the end. We got to get a win sometime. We were the last team to win at Watford, so we're going to be a bogey team. We're going to go there. We're going to win.
Okay, fair enough. I don't know. We're into the last couple of minutes, so I want to talk about the games coming up. Did you want to respond to that about
just one point?
Yeah,
just one point I wanted to make. In relation to say they sack all the board and they brought in new people. It doesn't matter. You could have Pep, you could have Sir Alex Ferguson, you could have all the best managers in the world of football for the last 100 years and put them on the board. If Vincent Tan doesn't listen to what they advise, it makes zero difference. So, for instance, I know from a fairly good source, to say the least, that for at least the last 3 years, at least two members of the board have been telling Vincent Tan that they need some sort of director of football, technical director, whatever title you want to give it, but they need someone. He doesn't want it because of things that happened previously, whatever, but whatever his reasons, he makes the decisions. Mehmet Dalman, Kenneth Cho, Steve Borley, whoever, they have no decision-making power. So if Vincent Tan doesn't want it, it don't happen.
Yep, fair enough. Okay. There's a thing called Christmas. Apparently, it's quite enjoyable. It's coming up quite soon. I think Steve's got a little thing just to might be a reminder of Christmas. Is it on the table by you? A little red and white character, maybe.
Yes,
there he is. There he is.
Here's the new striker. Yes, Santa. He'll net you a hat full of gold.
If only we could believe in that, and that was going to happen, eh? Right. Thanks for that. Anyway, we'll go around with just some predictions. Then, Steve, you already said we're going to do Watford, so Oxford United.
Steve Thomas. Next two games, at least a draw and a win from the two, preferably 2 wins. But we've got to start picking up more points away from home. Yes, we've drawn a lot of games away from home. Last couple of away games, Coventry and Stoke, we perhaps should have won both of them. We need to start getting a couple of wins. If we get a win and a draw, I'm not bothered about which way round, though. I will be at Watford. I can't go to Oxford, but I will be at Watford. I'd like to see us win both. And as I said, we are the last team to win at Watford, so hopefully we can be the next team to win at Watford as well.
Okay, Si?
I think we might beat Oxford if we can start the game fast. I believe that we're good enough to beat them. So I'm going to go with that. But Watford, I think, will be a tricky game. So I'll probably take 4 points from a 2. Be very happy with 4 points, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, Steve, Wiggy?
Not so upbeat, ESD. I draw against Oxford. I can't see us beating Watford up there. And then we got Coventry on New Year's Day, that can go either way, can't it? With our home form. So maybe another draw there. And I think size tip of Mr. Tan, look at it. Omar will be on the table then.
I think he'll be gone before the cup game if we were not to win any games over Christmas, to be honest.
However, on behalf of the Cardiff City Phone-In, we wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, of course, which hopefully will include a resurgence in City's fortunes. Thanks a lot, guys, for now. Have a lovely Christmas. Cheers all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Merry Christmas all.